are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, it's Joshua Bixby here. My clock says 11:01, so I am going to start. Thank you for attending. I see, for anyone who's done one of these, it's you'd think the technology would improve. So we're getting better. I see that there are a lot of people here, and I have this great little tool that tells me if you're looking at your screen. I will not use it, but it shows me whether 50% or 25% of people are looking at screens, one of those scary marketing pieces. Wanted to just introduce myself, talk about the goal of these sessions. As I said, my name is Joshua. I'm the president and co-founder of Strangeloop Networks. The idea of these coffee talks was to inspire people with information. This is not a plug for Strangeloop. My hope is that something from the next 20 to 25 minutes will be valuable to you. If you are finding it something that you're not interested in, ask a question. There's a question bar on the right. Ask a question. I want this to be dynamic. This is not slideware, PowerPoint presentation oriented. The reason we picked this topic was because I did a blog post in July on page test tools. My blog is Web Performance Today. And we had resounding interest, a lot of questions, a lot of stuff came offline from it. So we decided that this would be a good thing to take people through. What I did in that case was I took an example site, target.com, and did a very quick analysis. So what I'd like to do in this session is I'd like to take about 15 minutes where I walk through and just tell you what I would do at my desk. So, we're a performance company, so I'm constantly being asked, hey Josh, are we going to, does this company have a performance problem? Hey Josh, is this company, can we help? Is really our initiative, but it always starts with the first question, does this company have a performance problem? And I find as I talk to senior executives, and I get the beauty of talking to many, actually seeing some friends out there signed up, many of you, and you've had this conversation with me, where we sit down and we say, well, what the heck is going on? Do we have a performance problem? So I want to start with that question. I want to come to a couple PowerPoint slides, very, very, very few, because I would like this to be hands-on. The most important slide I want to hit on is this. And the point of this slide is finding out where you should start from a measurement question is incredibly challenging. I've just captured on this slide just a few of and I'd say the market's probably at 30 or 40 different tools to figure out, do you have a performance problem? How serious is it? What's going on? I want to talk about what I do in the enterprise every day, so let's get into it. What I've done here, and I'm going to try to minimize jumping around, but I do want to make this interactive, so I am going to spend a lot of time in my browsers actually doing things. I'm going to start with my target site. So I have a tab here, and you'll see I have a lot of open tabs that the hope there is to not spend a lot of time waiting for tests and things to run. So I'm going to use the same analogy I use in the blog. I am a business owner at target.com. So the first thing I would do when somebody comes to me and says, hey, target.com is slow, first thing I'm going to do is actually just pull it up in my browser at work. So I'm sitting here at work, and I'm going to pull up target.com. And I'm just going to sort of eyeball it. That's pretty fast. Next thing I'm going to do, I'll probably eyeball one of my competitors just to sort of feel, how did that feel? Now, again, all very much non-scientific, and we'll get to the science part, but I'm going to go to walmart.com. Okay, that felt pretty fast too. And then, do I have a performance problem? So that's the question I ask. I know that today, and I spend a lot of time talking about this research, so of others, there's a relationship between performance and conversion. At target.com, I'm really interested in that. When I looked at target.com here, I would say I don't really have a performance problem. And one of the things we have to analyze is, and I see this all the time, I'll talk to executives and say, the site's actually pretty fast. I think it's okay. I checked it against my competitors, and I'll always say, how did you check it? Is that how your customers are using it? So let's start answering those questions. The first and most important question to answer is, what are your customers using? So in this case, I don't actually, Target is not a customer, and I have not had any dealings with them. But I would go into my analytics tool. In this case, let's say I use Google Analytics because I want to find two key pieces of information that are very, very important to making a decision about what tools I want to use. again, my goal in this is not how have I performed over the last year. My goal in this is, should I think about making an investment in performance? And I want to gear this to a business user who traditionally would offload this question to someone else. I want to arm that business user with that information. So I see a question coming in here. Yes, that from Greg. Thanks, Greg. That business user in the context, I mean somebody who doesn't feel like measurement is their area of expertise. Who traditionally has just passed that off to someone else. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to either gather or ask a number of key questions. First question I'm going to ask: what browsers are my customers coming in on? This is really important because browsers are different. So in this case, I've just pulled up one of our customers, and obviously, I'll obscure that customer. In this case, 55% of my users are coming in on Internet Explorer. That is a very important fact for me to know. Fascinating, just released TechCrunch, which is a big tech blog that I'm sure some of you know about. They just released numbers which said that their Chrome is now the #1 browser for them, or soon will surpass it this week. So this question is not a guarantee it's going to be IE. In this case, this is an e-commerce company. It's a B2C e-commerce company, just like Target. I'll bet you Target's numbers are similar to this. So that's the first question. The next question I'm going to ask, well, what version? This is also really important because, especially in the context of IE, IE6, IE7, and IE8 are effectively different browsers. They could be made by different companies. They're so different. And IE9, which is set to come out this year, is also really different. So in this case, I know that 67% are coming in on IE8, 22 or 30, 23% are coming in on IE7. So I'm starting to form a picture. Again, remember, the client sort of thinking like your customer. So remember, and again, correlate this to what I first did. I was testing in Chrome. So right away, I would say that test is not exactly what your customers are experiencing. So right away, sort of a little X there. The next question I'm going to address is, well, what kind of connection speed are they coming in at? And this is not an easy assessment. Google and other analytics tools give you some insight. This is still black magic in some ways, but it gives me some idea. My customers are not coming in on a T1 or an OC3. They're coming in on cable and DSL. So I'm starting to form a picture in my mind of my customer. I then would take a look, and I haven't taken the time at where my geographical base is. In the context of Target, I'm assuming it's US and Canada. But those are three pieces that you absolutely need to make a determination here. Number one, what browsers, and importantly, what versions. Number two, how are they connecting to me? And number three, what geographical area. So I sort of have a picture of my customer already in mind here. Let's keep going. Coming back to my first test, which was, hey, I did a test on Chrome over my fiber connection because we have pimped out internet connection here in my office. Immediately, I'm disregarding that as being valid in terms of real load time and information. Question coming in here from Mike about whether Google Analytics captures that data well. Again, as I say, this is still, you just need to get a broad spectrum. And I wouldn't put a lot of faith in any of those statistics per se. But I think coming back to this picture, let me just go back to it quickly, you will see that there is overwhelming evidence that my users are coming in over cable and DSL. I'm not saying that the percentages are right, I'm not saying the numbers are right, but there is a lot of evidence suggesting that. I also know as a target, I can use my own intuition here as well, which is important. Let's keep going. So next thing I'm going to do is I'll probably put a call down to my team and ask them what performance is like, and most likely they're going to send me a graph like this. This is a capture of Target. It's linked directly off the blog post, so you can see all of this information. Directly off the blog post, this is Target.com hitting from Gomez. Gomez, Keynote, Web Metrics. You probably, if you're an e-commerce company, you probably already have an investment in one of these tools. You're going to get sent a test like this. So this is where, as a business user, do not get fooled. What this is doing, and we have to dig into this, and I don't want to get too technical, but you need to be armed with this. Your users, this test is, one, I've got to look where it's testing from. It's testing from Los Angeles, Miami, Atlanta, New York, and Seattle. So a good distribution. It is, however, a backbone test. And this is language that, although sounds technical, you need to know about. This means that this test is being done from servers in basically Class A data centers on the fiber network. You are at the elbow of the internet. You are not testing on a browser, you're testing on a simulated browser. Again, let's come back to the first message here. IE8 and IE7 over DSL and cable across the US. When I look at this test, I have across the US represented. That's good. I do not have a real browser. That's a real X in terms of, that's a fail. And I certainly don't have a DSL or cable connection. What this test is telling me, and I can't tell you how many conversations I have with executives where they say, well, there's a 2-second rule, and look, if I'm Target.com between July 15th and the 19th, I do great. I don't have a performance problem. Well, I'll come and say, who are your users? What's their connection? Where are they coming in from? Okay, this is invalid. You might also get a keynote test. You might be familiar with something like this too. Again, same time period. Wow, on keynote, I'm sub 1.6 seconds. Well, I can tell you that loading this page just in my browser was not 1.6 seconds. So there's something off here. And what's off is that when you do tests over carriers' backbones, you get results which influence your decision-making in the incorrect direction. And I believe this fundamentally. You can't tell me that a backbone test like this is real. So I spend a lot of time on web page tests. And what I like about web page tests is it's an interface that anyone can use. This is an open source tool. You'll see our branding everywhere. But there is also branding from other companies. Everyone sponsors links. You can see here if I show you the links are around the world. So I've got a link here in San Jose, New York and Chicago, Dallas, Virginia, all around the world. And I can basically say, I want to test Target.com, so I'll just type this in. And I can determine my location, and then if I want to, I can come into advanced settings and pick my browser. In this case, it's only IE7 and IE8. Patrick Meehan, who runs this, is working on a Firefox implementation of this. Let's take IE7, and most importantly, I can start throttling my connection. So I can say, I want to test Target.com from Dallas, Virginia. Let's actually pick San Jose on IE7 over a DSL connection. There's a number of other attributes, and we can go into them in a sec, but I don't want to confuse us. Basically, I've used the information I gathered from my statistics to come in here and run a test. Now you will be armed with some information that I think is really important. I'm going to run this test. It's going to take about 12 seconds. I just want you to feel what it feels like to run a test, what it looks like, and then I want to go into it. And then you'll see here, open in my browser, a number of one-page test iterations that I want to take you through. Because again, we know we've got IE7, we've got IE8, we've got some DSL and cable customers, we've got people around different locations, maybe around the world. Let's take a look at this number. And it should come up here in just a second. Let me just refresh my browser. There we go. This is telling me that my page loads in 8.7 seconds from San Jose, basically simulating my end user. There is a massive discrepancy here, right? Gomez is telling me 1.6 is the peak. Web page test is telling me 8.7. And what you have to do is as an executive or someone in the marketing department is making a determination about what you believe. Because 8.7 seconds is dramatically different than the numbers that we saw from Keynote and Gomez. When you click into this, you also see in this a number of information points about what's happening on your page. Target has 124 requests. It took 3 seconds to start rendering. It was 863 kilobytes, and then a lot of detailed information, which we're going to get into in a subsequent webinar when Hooman Beheshti, our VP Products, does an analysis of what does this all mean. And I don't want to get into it, but I'm sure there are going to be questions. I've already seen them coming in around these, and I'm going to try to defer those to our next webinar. So Sean and Dillian, there's a great webinar. Take a look at the webinar series. I don't have time to answer your questions. In fact, if you stay on the line later, I can answer those. So let's take a look at that page. 8.7 seconds. Another thing that I can do that's really helpful is I can actually create a video, a side-by-side video. So what I've done here, and you'll see where that is located. I'll just go back and you can run. Let me just come back here. This is a really helpful one. If I just go to the home page here, you can do a visual comparison where you type in, target.com, add a link. Here I'll go www.target.com. And then I can add a label for Walmart. Let's say I want to compare it to my competitor. which is always very helpful in terms of getting buy-in for performance. And then I can submit that test. What that looks like when it comes back as a result is you actually get a film strip view of what happened at 0 seconds, 1 second, 2 seconds. Let's take a look. Walmart started loading at 4 seconds. I've posted and others as a blog post about how important start render is and how important what renders first is. So what's happening here is you can say, okay, Target 5 seconds and Walmart 5 seconds, but the fact that Walmart already has content information and their main header up is actually very important to the overall performance of the site. The fact that this is now rendered and on my Target site at 9 seconds, I still don't have something, my site renders at 10. I would say if Walmart's my biggest competitor and my users are using IE7 or IE8 and they are a cable company, I am behind the times from a competitive standpoint. I'm just going to create a video here. So this is what happens once you click start, and you'll see that here. It feels like I'm doing a cooking show. And I'm going to create that video. This will just take a second. This I find to be one of the most compelling tools that you can use in your arsenal to talk about performance. There's another one that I'm going to mention at the end of the session which also speaks to that as well, which is visual comparison of site speed. This is going to just take a second. I want to sit on this for a second because I think that this, more than anything, you can debate a Gomez score. You can debate a Keynote score. You can debate till the cows come home about what's valid, what's not valid. When you come here, you can see captured on a real browser exactly what that might look like. As that's rendering here, let me just, so here we go, my video's there. So I'm Target on the left and Walmart on the right. And I just show this to a senior executive, and it's pretty tough to argue that that I'm better. And that difference, that small difference that we saw in the slide view and that you see illustrated in the movie can make a 10% difference in my conversion. We've seen that, and we have, and there's an army of facts in our industry which suggest that. Now let's say I did a test from, for example, IE7 Dulles. Okay, I get 8.7 seconds. Also very important to focus on my repeat view. Repeat view is critical because most of your users, you hope, come to your site and come back. So this tries to emulate the experience. It was 8.5, 9 seconds the first time, and when they came back, it's 5 seconds. Again, these are numbers that you could really improve on. Important also to focus on start render. Now let's change browsers. Let's change connection. Let's say I did that in Fios to mimic a really, really fast connection. Again, I can really dump my first view. So now my first view over Fios, I think of that as your fiber connected essentially. Now 4.5 seconds versus 8.5 seconds. So the question, the question of what connection makes a huge difference to your analysis of your performance problem. Let's take a look at this if I change browsers now. IE8, which was my predominant browser, same page, same questions, same page, same analysis, goes from 8.5 to 5.5 seconds, 5.7 seconds. So the browser that my customers coming in and are buying on is critical. I go from the connection and the browser; those two pieces on their own can make a 50% difference. Look at what Fios and IE8 do together. 3.4 seconds. I mean, that's a dramatic difference. If this is your customer, you have a very different profile around performance than if this is your customer, right? Look at the differences there. Same page, different tests. Let's take a look and see what happens if I test from China. Well, this is really important because you might have geographically dispersed users. So I did a test from China. Look what your China user sees like. It actually took so long, the test time's out. This start renders at 15, and it doesn't actually finish until somewhere way down here where you're getting errors. So this tool is also incredibly useful to determine whether you're seeing performance gains in different geographical locations. Target, for example, might target users in China. Very, very useful from that perspective. Let's come up and take a look at a few other tools. I see a lot of questions, so I want to make sure I have time for those. And again, feel free to submit them. I'm culling them, and I will get back to you individually on some of them. So I will not have enough time in the next 8 minutes to get through all of them. One tool that's interesting that I want to point out is HTTP Watch. So when I talked about sort of doing a hit here on Target.com and feeling what it was like, one tool that I use a lot is HTTP Watch. So let me actually come here to I'm opening up IE because it actually works better in IE. and I downloaded a tool called HTTP Watch. I'll actually go to the site so you can see what that looks like. What HTTP Watch gives me is it gives me a picture of what the site looks like for me on my computer, and it works in IE and Firefox. Let me show you how it works. I come to Tools, I click on HTTP Watch. I'm going to clear my cache to simulate sort of a first user hit. I click Record, and I'm going to come here and type in www.target.com. And what it's going to load here is all of the resources and the time. 127 requests. I'm getting at the same information, just a different way. 2.5 seconds. So this mimics much closer to what we saw with Keynote and Gomez. And again, that's because I'm coming at it over such a fast connection. This gives you some really interesting information, which we're going to get into in some of our subsequent webinars around what are your objects, how long did they take, what's the timing, what's the performance. I'm not going to get into it right now, but I would definitely suggest to you to download HTTP Watch and start playing with it, because when I have conversations with developers, this is a really useful tool. What's also really useful about it is if you find a problem, you can come and save this, and this gives your developers all the information you need, most of the information you need to diagnose a performance problem. So let's say you're at home and you're sick and tired of the developer saying, "Oh, I can't, I can't solve it. It's a one-off thing." Get HTTP Watch, save that file, export it, and save it, and send it to them, and they should have no excuse. Another tool that's quite useful that you might find interesting is Firefox and their YSlow plugin. I just saw a question about that, so Gail, I'll answer your question right now. Yes, Firefox and YSlow are important plugins. How that works is you come here in Firefox and you type in, again, arming yourself with more information here. Target.com, come down to the YSlow tab down here and see, how it got rated on major performance bottlenecks. So this gets Fs as a grade and an overall score of 38. That is very, very low. I want to start answering questions. So one question came in from Jeff around showing performance side by side. We talked about doing that in the video. So one way that we could do it is, as we talked about here, is in the video. As I say, this is incredibly compelling. I actually find that the view here where you see the different panels and where they load is very compelling. One thing I didn't talk about was slow motion. His point was, or his question was, when the differences are this small, i.e. 1 second, it wasn't clear to see that on the video. So you're right, Jeff, this is one way to do it. Another site that I sort of like is, and it's cute, is which site loads faster. So this is a tool where you can come in and you can sort of match up a site. So this is a really fun one. What it does is it renders both sites as if you're rendering it. So I don't get around the measurement problem or around performance, around connection, but I do get an interesting view here of. So let's take a look at, Amazon versus Shopzilla. So it will load Shopzilla on the right, it will load Amazon on the left, and it will tell me that Shopzilla is 2.5 times faster. I often send customers here who don't want to go through all of the clicks of web page tests just to see a visualization. I, however, have to caution my users that, and I've got a question about this, so that's a good question, Steph, around the fact that this is not actually throttled in any way. This is your browser, your computer, and I find way too many people test from their own office computer to make a determination. Another feature, another tool which is still in its infancy but is worth you knowing and is slightly more sophisticated is a tool called ShowSlow. ShowSlow measures your performance and also all of the grades that we talked about here. YSlow, there's another tool from Google called PageSpeed. Dynatrace has an Ajax monitoring tool. Again, all tools that will help you do that. And this basically said, what was my performance? It's as you can see, it's not easy to use yet. But this purple line right here is my page load time. So I can kind of hover over and see it there in spikes. Here's my page load time. Oh man, there's a big problem here between this time and this time. And this can really help diagnose that. Let me answer a few more questions. So there's a question, just reading this one here. There's a question from Steve about digging into the waterfall. And there are a few questions around that area. I'm not going to spend time digging into the waterfall today, just given the community and the target. But absolutely, once you determine that you have a performance problem, the target loads in 10.7 seconds. Your next job is to look at this waterfall and make a determination about exactly where you need to target and what your problems are. And again, we're going to have other sessions on that. The main takeaway from this, and we have about 2 minutes left, and I will get back to all of you on your individual questions, so please keep asking. This is great. The main objective of this is to, so if there's a takeaway, it's that you understand that performance depends, it's really in the eye of the beholder, right? You might see fast performance from your office. You might be paying tens of thousands of dollars of tools to confirm that diagnosis. You might still have a problem. So I want, every single one of you in your organization should be going back and asking the simple questions. What browsers am I using? What connections are my customers coming in on? Where geographically are they located? And what tool can I put in place to diagnose that and make a determination about what my performance really is? I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I hope this was useful. I'd love your comments. Either come to the blog and put some comments in either on this post here, the one I just talked about, or on any of the posts that we do. I'd encourage you to come to some of our other sessions as well. We have a number of other events that are being hosted like this, and I would really encourage you to come. And if you want to influence some of the events that we do, again, we're in a position where we see thousands of companies, and we get to talk performance all the time. Please come and influence that. Our next session is on September 22nd at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and I really encourage you to attend. I thank everyone for their questions. I'm going to actually stay here, and this is the formal end. I am going to stay here and address a few of the other questions that were asked so that you don't feel left out. And I have an infinite amount of time until my plane takes off to fly down to San Francisco. So I can wait if you can wait. Thank you, everyone. Much appreciated, and have a great day. Mariella, who is asking about